just mentioned had Pat Nunley on Baylor and their game tonight in Houston against Kelvin Sampson. The Cougars ranked inside the top 10. Joseph Duarte, Houston Chronicle, joins us. He's at the arena. I saw the picture that you are there, game number 24, Baylor. Joseph, Baylor has this constant thing with injuries, but Houston's had to battle a lot of theirs too. It's a tough game. It's a great conference. Your thoughts about where are they health-wise right now?
Well, it's also coming up on mid-February, so a lot of teams are dealing with this right now, Smokey. But Houston, 2 injury reports. Emmanuel Sharp, they sat him out. They kind of basically shut him down the last week. He missed 2 games, had been dealing with a really nasty ankle injury. They felt like that rest has helped him. He'll play tonight, so that's big for Houston, second leading scorer. And then guy you're familiar with, L.J. Cryer, he's been dealing with an injury on his hand. It's like the knuckle on his pinky finger, and he's going to give it a go. He was at practice last night, had it wrapped in ice. Not much they can do with it right now other than just, give it time to heal and ice it down. But this is probably, in terms of guys that they have back, about as good as Houston has been in a while on the injury front.
Baylor's going to have to go small ball for the rest of the year. Yeah. This obviously, the fact that Jawan Roberts exists and walks the face of the earth should mean good things for him tonight in particular. But can they, if Baylor kind of gets it going their way, do you think Houston can run with them with that 4-guard lineup they're going to throw out there?
That's a good point because, yesterday Kelvin Sampson said this Baylor team was probably the best transition offense that they faced this year and may face for the entire year. And that was knowing that, guys like Langston Love and Jeremy Rhodes, those guys are healthy or are back in the lineup. And that's something, Houston has the ability to run the floor tempo-wise. I don't think it's necessarily what they like to do. But on the flip side of the first part of your question, they want to get Jawan Roberts involved inside. They've used him in multiple ways recently. In fact, in the second half against Colorado, they decided that was going to be the game plan, and they did the same thing against Central Florida. So they want to be able to go to him, and if they have to, they use him sort of as a decoy. Where I think his passing is really underrated, and that opens up stuff on the outside for the guards. So Houston, they've scored in the 80s before. I don't know if that's necessarily their deal offensively, but if it comes to that, they do have at least now the guards and the lineup that they feel like they can put up some points.
Joseph, so many times when we talked to you last year, everything was brand new, right? It was the first time being here, first time being there. And there's still some of that. Like, you didn't go to every arena last year, but just in terms of kind of like Houston's in the Big 12, they've got their bearings about them. They're having success in basketball as expected. But what's it been like on the beat and just covering the league now for a while? Basketball-wise, what have been your impressions?
Well, I'm old enough that I was on the tail end of the Southwest Conference when I was in college. So I was in the Big 12 when I covered the Longhorns. So I had been in the league, so I got in before Houston did. And it's been interesting because you look at the first 11 years I was on the beat. It was Conference USA and the American, and they're just there wasn't a lot of interest in when Temple came to town or when East Carolina or South Florida came to town. And you see now the schedule, it didn't happen last year, but Baylor finally comes to Houston. You look at Texas was here last year, TCU, Texas Tech. And, that just brings a whole nother dynamic to a fan base that has really for decades wanted to join a power conference. So on the basketball front, it's been really interesting. And just, going to some of the places like, who would have thought, and this isn't even a Big 12 thing, who would have thought a couple of years ago that, Houston or anybody would be playing at Arizona or Arizona State next week, those Pac-12 schools. So it's definitely a different looking and probably imagined Big 12 that what Houston thought they were getting into with what it looks now. But it's been fun. And for football, for basketball, they've hung in there. I think they're 25-4 since joining the league in the regular season. That's pretty impressive. Now they just need to get football on par.
So, you think of them because they've lost, 4 times? They've lost to the number 1 and number 2 ranked teams in the country, Auburn and Alabama, flip them depending on the poll. San Diego State, who's a dynamic at times basketball program. We know what the run they made recently. And then they lose at home to Texas Tech by what, 1 or whatever it was? So this, you're like, oh, they're not quite. No, they're really good. They've played really good people, and they've been close.
Yeah, they were up 9, I believe, on Auburn in the second half. They played that game without one of their big men, Javier Francis, most of the game. So, you're up there. You lose in overtime to Alabama. You could have won it in regulation with the last shot. And then, like you said, you lose in overtime to San Diego State. And the Texas Tech game was probably out of the 4, the one that they felt really got away because, J.T. Toppin got ejected in the first few minutes. And, it was one of the few times I've ever heard Kelvin Sampson say that his team got out-competed and just outplayed. So, but it's been interesting. I think it's by a combined 14 points. They're 4 losses, but, having a loss to number 1 and number 2 currently in the polls, Houston has certainly played a challenging schedule. They just, got to get some of those wins, especially, look at the schedule for the rest of the year. They have 7 out of 8 quad 1 opportunities. So this will be a chance for them to make some noise and really earn that repeat in the Big 12.
Joseph, since you saw it, just curious, Grant McCaslin's reaction to that JT Toppin call, and I don't know if there's ever maybe been a more justified rant in the history of college basketball.
Yeah, I've also never been in a press conference basketball one where they, evoke the name Patrick Mahomes to sort of defend their case and in terms of what happened and the type of, I guess it was a left-handed move there that Toppin was going for the ball. But it was a wild scene here in Houston. You typically don't see something like that early on. And, he didn't get into specifics, but we all know, what was said at least, or, what he basically implied to the refs that he didn't like the call. And, both of them spend the next 36 minutes in the locker room watching the game. But that's sort of what Houston's getting at. And this is a rivalry. I thought the Baylor atmosphere last year in Waco was really good. I think we counted 200 and something boos for LJ Cryer during that game every time he touched the ball. And then you see, Texas Tech coming in. I don't think it's in basketball at the same level yet with TCU, but certainly Baylor and Texas Tech moved the needle here, and people get excited when those two teams come to town.
Yeah, the LJ Cryer injury, is he going to play tonight, you think?
Yeah, he's going to play.
Okay.
He had it, like I mentioned, he had it wrapped in some ice, but it's nothing that will prevent him from playing the rest of the year. Probably will need some type of procedure afterwards, after the season's over, but he told us yesterday that he's adamant he's not going to miss any playing time.
Joseph, it's down the road still with Willie Fritz year 2. Your thoughts about what they've been able to accomplish since the season closed out, and what they've, not so much specific names added, and who they are as they enter spring drills here around the corner.
Well, they've got a couple of significant names, and the focus was on offense this year. They were next to last in scoring in the country, and that was where it started. And they went portal heavy, got the quarterback that they wanted, Connor Wegman, who played at Texas A&M, so he'll come in and be his job. And then they went out and sort of tried to surround him with some playmakers. They got an interesting receiver from UAB, Amari Thomas. They went and got a tight end from Texas Tech, Luke McGarry, and then running back from across town, Rice, Dean Connors. And then they loaded up on the offensive line. So they knew where they needed to start, what needed to get upgraded. They feel like they're in good shape on the defensive side, but a lot of the focus has been offense, and it'll be interesting. And now they also have a new coordinator in Slade Nagel. So I think the spring will be interesting to see how this all comes together. But they feel like through the portal, they got some of the pieces they needed.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it, Joseph. Enjoy the game tonight. Baylor, Houston, down in Houston, Big 12 basketball.